Hello all. We are a group of 10th grade students studying at DY Patil International School.
We have made this video to help you all ace your Cambridge IGCSE Computer Science Exam 0478.
Here are our solutions to the pre-release tasks for the May-June 2021 exams. We would recommend you to read the pre-release material before watching this video. Here are some of the key pointers from the pre-release. Please feel free to pause the video and see them at your convenience.
To begin with, we will discuss Task 1. This task aims at setting up the screen display for the start of the day. Here, we will initialize suitable data structures to store the total number of available seats, the timings for each train journey, the money collected for each train journey, as well as the passengers for the respective train journeys. It is important to remember that there are 8 train journeys each day, 4 of which are departure trains traveling up the mountain, and 4 of them are returning trains traveling back down from the mountain. We will then display the total number of seats available and their respective timings at the start of the day. Here we initialize the suitable data structures. T-coach capacity up and T-coach capacity down are 2 arrays that store the number of available seats for each of the train journeys. As you can see, T-coach capacity up shows that each of the 4 journeys that travel up have 480 available seats, while the 4 train journeys coming down have 480 available seats as well, excepting the last train journey having 2 extra coaches with 640 available seats. The next array is train time up and train time down. These consist of the timings for each of the journeys. The train time up has the timings for each of the departure trains, while the train time down has the timings for each of the returning trains. Total money up is initialized to 0, and total money down is initialized to 0 as well. These 2 arrays will be used to calculate the total amount of money earned from each of the train journeys. Lastly, we have the passengers up and passengers down array, which are initialized to 0 as well. These will be used to calculate the total number of passengers traveling on each of the 8 train journeys. Next, these are the prompts for the start of the day. We begin with a for loop. This for loop will enable us to print out the train numbers as well as the timings and the number of available seats for each journey. As you can see, for count 1 to 4. When we print train up, comma, the train number, in this case, our first train would be 1. Train up 1, train time, we will index the train time up array and get the timing for the first train journey up. So train up 1, train time would be 9 o'clock in this case, and the number of seats would be 480. We would do the same thing for the train down array, and that is the end of the for loop along with task 1. Moving on.
So now we're going to be explaining you the algorithm for task 2. So the aim of task 2 is to calculate the total cost of purchasing tickets and checking whether or not a discount is applicable for the same. So if the tickets are available, the final cost is calculated and the screen display is updated. So the algorithm begins by taking the user input for the departure train and checking that it meets the criteria for the options given. So that is, the train going up must be 1, 2, 3, or 4. Then the user inputs the return train and this is validated as well. The next step is to ensure that the return train is after the departure train so that there is no problem while calculating. And then the user is expected to input the number of tickets. The input is validated to check whether it meets the criteria for discount. If the discount criteria is fulfilled, then the discount is given to the passenger group. If not, then the price is calculated. After these procedures have taken place, the screen display is updated and the user is asked to confirm whether they would like to buy more tickets. And if yes, the loop executes again. If not, the loop breaks.
There are two new variables which will have to be initialized for task 2, which is trip cost and more tickets. Trip cost is a variable declared to store the total price of the train journeys up and down for a single passenger or passenger group. More tickets is a variable used to store a Boolean value. This ensures the continuous running of the program till the end of the day. The print statements are initially used to display the train numbers and their corresponding timings up and down. The while loop ensures the continuous running of the program and the updation of the arrays till the end of the day. Next on, we have the repeat until loop. This repeat until loop is used as a validation check to ensure that the train numbers which are inputted by the users are within the appropriate range between 1 and 4 inclusive. This also checks that the return train chosen by the user is scheduled later than the departure train.
We now move on to taking the inputs for the number of tickets the user would like to buy. We begin with a repeat until loop, which is again used as a validation check in this case. We prompt the user to enter the number of tickets and store the value in the variable tickets. Here, we check the following condition. We must make sure that the number of tickets they have chosen is less than or equal to the number of available tickets. And the number of tickets should also be available for the return journey. So these two conditions help us make sure that the user does not book any tickets exceeding the value of those available. We then move on to an if condition to be able to provide the user with an appropriate discount as mentioned in the pre-release. Here, we check that the number of tickets booked are greater than equal to 10 and less than equal to 80. For every 10 tickets booked, the user must get one ticket free. Thus, if the number of tickets they have booked falls under this range, we provide them with a discount appropriate to the number of tickets. So here we store that in the variable trip cost. $25 is the amount of money for each train journey. We must multiply this by 2, remembering that each passenger travels up and down the mountain. This would give us a value of 50. We will then multiply this by the following: tickets minus tickets divided by 10. For example, the user books 40 tickets. The value in tickets would be 40 minus 4. In this case, we divide tickets by 10 to be able to get the quotient 4 in this case, which would be the number of tickets that the user gets free. Thus, trip cost will be able to store the amount after discount. We will then put an appropriate print statement to print the cost for departure and return with the discount. Otherwise, if this condition is not met and the number of tickets exceeds 80 or is below 10, no discount will be added and the price is simply calculated using this formula. Lastly, we will be updating all of the arrays. The T-coach capacity up will be subtracted by the number of tickets booked with the appropriate index. The same thing goes for the T-coach capacity down. The passengers up and passengers down array the tickets will be added to these arrays. As you can see, the tickets display the number of passengers traveling on each journey. Lastly, the trip cost divided by 2 will be added to the money up and money down array individually, remembering that one train journey is either departure or return.
Finally, after these calculations have been made, the screen display is updated. So the for loop checks that the departure trains have a capacity to take more passengers. So the loop begins with checking whether the capacity for each departure train is equal to 0. If this condition is satisfied, that means that there are no more tickets available to book and the train is closed. Otherwise, if this condition is not met, then the train seats are displayed, and the same occurs for the return trains as well. So the same condition is checked, and if it is met, then accordingly the screen display is updated. Once this is done, the users asked to input whether they would like to purchase more tickets. If they prefer to buy more tickets, then the loop executes again, whereas if they do not, then the loop breaks.
Now moving on to task 3. Task 3 aims at displaying the number of passengers that traveled on each train journey and the total money taken for each train journey. We will be calculating and displaying the total number of passengers and the total money taken for the day as well. The algorithm for the same is as follows. Initializing the new variables, displaying the number of passengers for each train journey, totaling the money earned for the day using for loops, calculating the total number of passengers for the day, finding the train journey and the train with the maximum passengers, displaying all of the above using print statements and appropriate prompts. So for task 3, we'll be initializing three variables, total passengers, total money, max passengers, and max train. The total passengers variable will store the number of passengers for the day. The total money variable will store the total money earned at the end of the day. This will be a sum of all the money which is earned by each of the train journeys. Max passengers stores the maximum number of passengers, and max train will store the train number with the maximum number of passengers. A for loop is used to display the details for each train journey. Passengers up and passengers down are predefined arrays storing the total passengers for each train journey. Total passengers for the day is totaled by incrementing the total passengers variable with the number of passengers in each train journey. The total number of passengers for all train journeys up will be equal to the total number of passengers for all train journeys down. Therefore, to avoid repetition and to ensure that every passenger is only counted once, only the passengers up array is used for the incrementation. Total money earned for the day is calculated by incrementing the total money variable with the total money earned by each of the four trains up and down. An if condition is used to compare the passengers for each train journey with the max passengers variable. If the number of passengers in a train is greater than the max passengers, then the value of max passengers will be updated and initialized to the number of passengers in that particular train. Two if conditions are used for the comparison to find from all eight trains up and down the train with the maximum number of passengers. The direction variable will be initialized to up or down according to the if condition which is satisfied. This will later be used as a part of a final print statement along with the train number of the maximum passengers.
However, we also need to check that there are other trains that have the same number of passengers as the max passenger variable. So the for loop is used to check whether the passengers up for the departure trains are equal to the max passenger variable. If the condition is true, then the direction for the train is printed, and the train number is printed with the number of passengers. This is also verified for the passenger down array. And finally, towards the end, print statements are used to display the total money earned for the day and the total passengers that have traveled on all 8 of the journeys. So this is the end of the pre-release material in terms of the pseudocode. However, now we will be showing you the Python version of the same.
Here we have the Python codes for each of the tasks. We will now be running these codes and viewing the output. Here is task 1. As you can see, the start of the day has been printed. The screen display for the start of the day. Now moving on to task 2, we will be running the code. Y'all can have a glance at this code. So here we go. We choose the departure train. For this example, we choose 2. And we choose the return train. In the example, we choose 4. We'll enter the number of tickets we would like to buy. Let's go with 20 for now. And here we have an updated screen display along with the cost for the departure and return with discount. So here our total cost is $900, and we have the updated screen display. As you can see, the available seats have been reduced by 20. Now, would you like to book more tickets? We will be saying no for now, and the while loop shall end. Here we have task 3. As you can see, this task has printed the total number of passengers on each train journey, as well as the total money earned from each train journey. In this case, we have 20 passengers on the train up journey 2, as well as 20 passengers for the train down journey 4. These trains have individually earned us $450. Lastly, we display the trains with the maximum number of passengers. In this case, both of the trains have have an equal number of passengers, both being the maximum. Thus, we have printed both of them. Lastly, we display the total money earned for the entire day, and in this case, it is 450 plus 450, which comes to $900. And that is the end for the programming statements of the pre-release 2021.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope this video helps you ace your Cambridge IGCSE Computer Science.